So this week we're starting off by letting everyone know that the podcast almost didn't happen.
I know. I was actually prepared for it not to happen because I didn't even do audience asks until today.
So for those of you curious, we are both sick a little bit, and so we all got distracted with our everyday lives, and we're running up against the wire, and the podcast almost didn't come to fruition.
Okay, well, let's be fair. We always do the podcast last minute because that is our life. And then last minute we ended up getting sick. So, yes, this is where we are.
That's factually correct.
Yes,
that's exactly what happened.
But since we did finish the movie and did our research, yay! What movie did we do this week?
This week we did Ip Man, first Kung Fu movie other than Kung Fu Panda.
Does that count as a Kung Fu movie?
I know, it's got Kung Fu in the name. It's an animated movie, but it still has martial arts in it, so...
I feel like that's really debatable. Let us know if you think it counts, because I feel like this is our first Kung Fu movie.
Well, this is the first traditional Kung Fu movie, where it's actual people fighting.
Actual people fighting? You mean live action rather than animated?
Yes, rather than an animated panda.
Oh, okay.
So, I'm Tyler.
I'm Shay.
And this is Cinematically Correct.
Okay, so Ip Man, I will admit, I was not super excited to see. I'm not a big Kung Fu person. In actuality, our first date, he made me go see The Foreigner for Jackie Chan, and I about died. So, I love Jackie Chan.
Not the best Jackie Chan movie, admittedly, but
I love him as a actor. I think he's funny and he's just an all around amazing man altogether. But I don't really like Kung Fu movies.
I don't understand that because they're awesome.
Well, I don't. And then this one doesn't even have anybody I know at all, so I can't even be like, okay, I'll watch it for the acting. There was nothing. So I was definitely dreading it. So when you said we're skipping the podcast this week because we both don't feel good, I was like, yes! And then you retracted that statement, and I was very sad. Very sad.
You just gotta learn to live with it, darling, because...
Yes, well, here we are. So, brief synopsis. We know you're so good at those.
Brief synopsis. So, Ip Man is a wealthy person in Foshan, China, and he basically lounges around his house all day and gets challenged to duels because people want to fight him. Mm-hmm. And then the Japanese invade China during World War II. And they make him fight Japanese soldiers. And then that's basically the movie.
Right. Okay. So, first thing I want to discuss about this is you said that it was a true story.
It's based on a true story, yes.
Okay. So, in my research, I was able to find that he is a real person.
He is a real person, yes.
I was able to find that he did, in fact, practice... I'm going to get the word wrong. Wing Chun? Is that how you say it?
Wingchun, I believe.
Okay. Well, all right. We're going to go with you. If he's wrong, it's on him because I stopped looking at my notes. Anyway. But beyond that, I was not able to find anything else in the movie that was actually true or false. I couldn't find anything else about, what is true in the movie.
I'm very confident that they put in a lot of extra fighting for creative license.
Sure, but there was, how many movies made of this man? There's at least 3 of Ip Man. At least. There might be actually more, but there's at least 3. And then there's 3
starring the main character, Donnie
Yen.
Yen? Yes. Where he said he was going to stop after 2, but they just threw more money at him than he could say no to.
Right. But so that's only them. And then there's others, the Grandmaster Ip Man, and there's a new one coming out, apparently I don't know if it's coming out this year or being filmed this year, but that's called something else that I can't find. Oh, right here. Master Z, Ip Man Legacy. So there's a lot.
Well, he's a very famous person.
But why is he famous is what I want to know.
Because he taught Bruce Lee.
That's it?
Yeah. I mean...
That just feels like such a letdown. There's a million movies made about this man. And
he's Bruce Lee's master, and Bruce Lee is the man that's synonymous with Kung Fu. When you think Kung Fu, you think Bruce Lee. When you think basketball, you think Michael Jordan.
Okay, but... regardless. Okay. So, anyway. So, true story. So the movie starts with him at his house with his wife.
Yes.
And
he does a lot of that.
Yeah.
Can I get that job?
So, anyway, it's a lot of, like, people coming to him and, like, challenging him and people, like, asking him to teach them and him, like, nah, I'm not doing that. I don't want to train people.
Do you see how good my life is right now? Why would I need to do things?
Right. So, the beginning of the movie is basically him having people come to him and his wife giving him resting bitch face the entire time.
Well, to be perfectly fair, they did break half of her house.
Okay, but before that, she was still doing that and being very, very passive aggressive, and even made the son ignore him.
I would say not passive aggressive, outright, actually in your face aggressive half the time.
Pretty aggressive. So I read that people were saying this movie, because of his relationship with his wife, they felt it was very misogynistic, and so I say all the time, I'm a feminist, but not like the new kind of feminist. And
feminist in the terms of you want equality and you don't want...
I believe in actual equality, not women get more liberties because they're women and they've been oppressed for so long. Like, I believe in actual equality. But regardless...
you just started a whole war on our podcast. You know that, right?
What? You agree with me.
I do agree with you, but that's not the common or consensus opinion of what feminism is.
That's why I said I'm not a new age feminist. I know. Anyways, my point being... that I didn't actually see a lot of misogyny in this movie. Now, I will say one line that irritated me to no end is when he said, you don't have to throw a tantrum. But... yeah. But I will say that given the time period, so I think we had figured out it was about the 30s.
Well, 30s and 40s, World War II.
Right. And given the culture, I would say that if anything, she was pretty forward given all of that. Like, she made some comments that were quite forward, and I don't know. I mean, even 30s in America, really, women weren't really supposed to talk to their men that way. So I don't know that I felt he was respecting her more than I would have expected for that time period.
Well, it's not so much misogyny or sexism, it's more just period accuracy. I feel like that's just...
Well, I honestly felt he was more respectful than I would have anticipated for that time period. Just...
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I have no frame of reference for 1930s and 40s China, but...
No, but I just go based on, like, older movies that I've seen where women really had a backseat. Like, not like you did not speak to your husband that way. Nowadays, we gonna do. But what?
It was interesting because he is such a badass Kung Fu Wing Chun master, and the person that puts him in his place is his wife, because he's just like always sheepishly looking at her with that really oh god face.
But I thought that was cute. Like, the point when one of the kids that wanted him to train, like, came up to the fence, and she had just told him that you're not doing that anymore, and he's, like, looking from her to him, to her to him.
Yes.
I thought that was, like, adorable.
Well, it's just that everyone has someone that they want to make happy because it makes their life easier. Like, he wants happy wife, happy life.
Right. I mean, the stuff with the son was heartbreaking. Like, the drawing he drew when he said he was too busy to look at it. Like,
he was literally fighting someone at the time.
I know, but then you see the drawing and you're just like, oh, God, that kills me. It hits me in the feels.
It did. It was kind of like, just take 5 seconds to look. You're probably better than the other guy to the point where you could look at the painting and still fight him. Because he didn't break a sweat for any of the fights in this movie. He did get hit, except for the end.
Well, I read on IMDb that the only times he got hit was the last fight.
Well, right. He made it look so effortless for the entire movie, where he was just like, yeah, I'm gonna win all of the things.
Right. So the movie went on to one of the masters in the town came and challenged him. He beat him, obviously.
And was nice about it.
And basically agreed, I'm going to keep this silent. I'm not going to tell anybody, like, whatever. And then somebody else went and told somebody, which was so predictable. And...
Well, the kid with the kite that
Right, the kid with the kite. And apparently the kid with the kite's brother is somebody that wanted to train under him. So it comes full circle later on. But anyway, they move on to after he's beaten them, the whole town finds out. They,
Well, the police officer has that whole scene where he goes to, like, point a gun in his face and he puts his thumb through the trigger and then knocks out the cylinder.
Right, so just basically proves he's an all-around badass.
Which, I'm fairly confident that you can't just poke out the cylinder unless you also, like, take other steps as well. Like, there's...
I mean, I honestly have not played with guns very often, so I'm not really too sure, but...
I mean, I'm fairly confident on most pistols there's a locking mechanism on the cylinder. But that's not the point.
No, not the point. So...
Then the out-of-towners come.
Yes, the out-of-towners, which I swear to you, I have seen that man before. I looked at IMDb and I cannot see a movie I've seen, but I have seen that man before. I'm telling you.
Are you sure?
Those eyes, I'm telling you, those eyes are like so familiar.
I don't know what to tell you, darling.
You said you thought you'd seen him too.
Well, I've seen him in the sequel to this movie, Ip Man 2.
Okay, so then maybe I saw the wrong person's IMDb because he did not say an Ip Man 2 on his IMDb either. So I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, he looked very familiar. But anyway, his character was confusing to me because so he was obviously another.
Well, he's the kung fu tough guy that you see, like he's the good at martial arts guy that is using it for the wrong reasons.
Well, right, but
you have the good martial arts master that understands that it's for self-defense and it's all about not picking on people, but then he's using it to build up his own reputation so that he can advance in life himself.
Right, so it's like the Karate Kid situation.
Exactly.
Okay, got you. Okay, anyway.
Basically Karate Kid.
It's basically, yeah. Okay, so they're basically all the same thing. It's fine. It's totally fine. This is not at all why I don't like Kung Fu movies. It's fine. It's fine. Anyway,
okay.
Moving on. So he came into town, he challenged him. Well, he challenged everybody, beat everybody, challenged him. And of course, Ip Man won. Fine, whatever.
Well, I love the fact that his wife was saying, don't fight, and then the guy shot off his mouth, and his wife's like, you know what, fine, just don't break anything.
So that's why people said it was a misogynistic movie, because they said she was holding her ground, and then this happened, and she basically faded into the background like a 50s housewife, which I disagree with. I feel like what she was doing was she was holding her ground, but then she was like, oh, you're insulting me now and my family? You can go straight fuck off. My husband can beat your ass. Like, that's how I felt like it was. I don't feel like she was being like, oh, I'm going to now be docile. I felt like she was now personally offended because he basically said, like, oh, what, you're afraid of your wife and, like, blah, 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 and made some stupid-ass comments. Where I feel like she was like, ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah.
Now, the fact that she said, don't break my things, and the first thing they do is break her things, pissed me off.
Well, then he said, I'll pay.
Well, right, because I don't think he was intending on being an asshole. He was trying to just be the better kung fu fighter.
Well, he was trying to build his reputation, and he was just like, I'll take care of it. Which I don't even know, did he actually pay him back for that? Because we never actually find that out.
I don't know, because he tries to steal later on.
Well, because he has no money. So how did he pay for all the nice things if he has no money?
Well, did he have no money the whole time, or did he have no money just after?
That's the real question for this movie, darling.
Right. That is the $1 million question. So, okay, the real Ip Man, the actual person, was a cop. And that's, like, what he was most of his life. He was a cop, and he did end up opening a school later on. But, like, during this time period, he was a cop. So that's how he made his money. How did this one make his money is what I want to know. Like, it's
family money is the only explanation that I have. Because
whose family?
His family.
Did he have family? Like, I'm not trying to be, like, rude about it, but, like, they don't make any mention of anything outside
of... He doesn't do anything in the movie. Like,
at all.
He sits around his house and drinks tea. And gets in fights. And
I don't think his wife does anything, because she didn't seem to leave the house.
Well, they made a comment where he has to go get a job shoveling coal later in the movie.
Yeah, and she's basically like...
you get a job?
You can work? Like, that's a thing? Oh. I mean, condescending as fuck, but...
And our podcast is now explicit, not through my doing, which is usually the case, but your doing.
Thanks.
That's like the 4th or 5th one you've done now.
Lies. I do not swear as much as you do.
But he did nothing. Just back to the movie. He did zero things.
He did zero things. But the real one was a cop. So
yes, a police officer.
Yeah, let's just clarify that. So anyway, then it ends up after that whole story arc, which is confusing to me because I thought the bad Chinese out of town guy was going to be the story arc, and it just kind of
faded the background.
Away, and then Japan invades.
Well, because then he in that fight he cheated by pulling out a sword when they're just fighting,
which you said was a practice dull sword.
I hope so, because
right, but regardless, it was weird to have that in there when it really wasn't part of the story that much. Like, it was because it moved on to Japan, so it was very weird. It was like, I don't know, levels of, I don't know. But anyway, so then Japan invaded.
Yes.
And they took
some
everything
very,
from everybody.
very horrible things. Yes.
Right, and you said that's like really kind of what happened. But so they took everything from everybody, and Ip Man was now poor along with everybody else in China, and he went to work as a coal miner, not coal miner because he was like dumping them, so he wasn't a miner. Yeah, I've only ever heard coal miner as a term, but
well, he wasn't digging out of the ground.
No, he was shoveling it and putting it in a grate. I don't know. But then they were asking for people to come do martial arts for the Japanese officials
in a kind of pseudo gladiatorial cage match,
right? But it was weird because, like, in the gladiator situation, they fight to the death and they die. Like, that's like
not
whatever.
always, but sometimes. Yes, okay.
But in this situation, that's not. Well, it's not how it started. They were fighting, and then if they won, they got a bag of rice and they got to leave, and they come back another time. But like that's what was going on. And then, so that was what was happening. And then his friend, Lin, which was the Kite Man's brother.
The best character in this movie, basically. So awesome.
His face looked like a toe.
He was so awesome, though.
But his face. He was awesome. But his face.
I didn't have a problem with it.
I could not stop looking at it.
You're a terrible person.
But anyway,
I'm glad you're just laughing and brushing that off completely.
What?
Like, no.
It was just the shape. It was like squared off, but then like rounded weirdly on the bottom. I don't know.
It was not an issue. Okay.
I mean, if you put a toe over his face, like in Photoshop, I'm sure it would match up pretty well.
Sure. Yep, sure. No, but sure.
I can't help it. Anyway, but so he goes in to fight. Admittedly, he does push it, and he does kind of spit in the guy's face with blood.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that you hate the Japanese because they were kind of dicks during the whole occupation, but that's really gross.
Yeah, so I mean, what happened was the general asked for 3 men. They went in. He was one of them. He had beaten them, and then Lin kept going and ended up spitting on him with blood, and
in his face.
The Japanese official ended up killing him. And
yeah, I'd be understandably upset if that happened to me.
Right, and I don't think he killed the other 2. I think they walked away. So when Ip Man found out about this, and then also saw his pseudo friend,
the guy from the beginning of the movie,
right, the master he had beaten before that was sworn to secrecy, so kind of his friendish thing,
at least acquaintance, like someone he was friendly with.
Right, he saw him get shot after winning a fight,
and then losing the second fight.
Right, but just shot for no apparent reason. And I will say the Japanese general did not want that to happen. He yelled at his underling and said, "Never open fire in this place again." So, not 100% evil, but
no, the worst person in this movie is definitely the second in command for the Japanese forces.
He's like, and he looks like a nerdy kid. Like, he doesn't look like
he's your typical like weaselly person, like scummy, slimy. Will stab you in the back if it makes them.
He was not a great character. And then Ip Man goes in and ends up beating
10 people.
10 people.
Like, full on awesome fight scene.
But the parody of that was probably hilarious.
But that fight scene is fantastic.
But like, realistically, though, when there's 10 people, there is no logical way that they would all just wait their turn to fight you.
See, that's one of the things that is a really a trope at this point for all action movies, kung fu movie, all movies where you're fighting, because any more than two people and you're basically sunk.
Oh, right. It's unrealistic to believe that. And I read somewhere that the type of kung fu he was doing is very one-on-one. Like, that's just how the style is. So they had to film it in that way so that he could show that type of kung fu and he didn't have to resort to anything else.
Right.
But, like, still, it was just like, yeah, no. Like, there's no way. Like, they would have taken him. Like, it doesn't matter how good he is. Like, that's... No. Nobody's going to just stand back and be like, all right, cool, you just beat my friend here. I'll just chill for a minute.
Well, that's just part of all movies that have fight scenes. That's what happens.
Okay.
You just have to accept it and...
I can't. Unrealistic just drives me crazy. But anyways, so that's basically what happens in the movie. But it seems that our audience really likes the Tyler History Minute. Mm-hmm. So I feel like you need to do a little Tyler History Minute about what was going on with the Japanese invading the Chinese. Like,
you wanting me to talk about the rape of Nanking?
I mean, I mean, if that's what comes to mind when you hear that.
Oh God, why are we talking about this?
Well, everybody likes Tyler History Minute. It's a
horrible, horrible thing. It's basically the Japanese equivalent of the Holocaust.
I realize that, but you know,
like horrifyingly messed up things.
I'm not saying say all the horrifying things. I'm just saying let people know what was going on so they can get an idea of why the Japanese were portrayed so poorly.
Don't wiki it ever.
But people need to know why the Japanese was portrayed as poorly as they were, because a lot of people are saying that this movie was racist against Japan. And I think that context would be useful. And everybody likes your history minute,
okay,
so...
Sure. So, this is during World War II, and Japan invaded China. Large portions of China.
You're not going to leave it there. That is not your cop-out.
And... large portions of China were under military occupation, which is never enjoyable, no. I would imagine. I can't speak from experience, but I would imagine if people were shooting my neighbors and taking all my stuff, I'd have a problem with it.
Oh, really? Would that bug you?
It would, actually.
Oh, that's shocking.
It's weird, though, because I think occupation would be harder in the United States because so many people have guns.
You mean nowadays?
Well, just in general. We've always had guns in this country since the days when this country was first started.
Right. Well, yeah, it's in the Constitution, but...
Right. I just think that's part of the reason they put it in there. But anyway, so they occupied China. They did a whole lot of really terrible things, including mass murder, horrible things that you do to women. I'm not going to talk about that, but it's in the name.
Another name for it is Massacre of Nanking, if you want to be not crude and explicit. So if you needed to wiki it, that's how you'd find it.
So just really lots and lots of atrocities.
Yes, it was so horrible that between 50 to 300,000 people passed away. The numbers...
What, like 6 weeks or something like that?
In a 6-week span. The numbers are heavily disputed, and apparently there are people even today that dispute that it ever happened at all. But there are
also people that think the Holocaust never happened.
Right. But there are stories within it that are just so horrible. Like, I'm not going to say all the stories that I read, but I read it to just kind of get context as to what was going on, because I am not history buff like this person over here. But it's horrible, and knowing that, I honestly feel like they were actually pretty fair to Japan. I mean, because they didn't portray the general as pure evil. They didn't. He was not a great person. He was a bad man, yes. But I mean, he wasn't pure evil. They could have portrayed him way worse.
He had some level of honor and decency.
Right. And he wasn't the reason that Ip Man gets shot. He didn't order that. He said he wanted to fight him because he was challenged, and
he wanted to convince them that his martial arts were better.
Right. And I truly believe that if he had his way and they were listening to him, he wouldn't have shot him. I think he would have maybe imprisoned him and forced him to train his people. But I don't think he would have shot him. It was that weaselly, awful man that made that decision. And they made that decision without the general around, behind closed doors when they told him, you need to let him win.
Yep.
So I feel like it wasn't racist against the Japanese. Yes, they showed them as bad people because they were bad people at the time. They were doing bad things.
Yes.
But
I think the translator got a rough rap.
Well, you hated him.
I did not, because I had forgotten.
You did not like him.
But he was being a little bit of a bitch for the first part of the movie, and then he redeemed himself by taking in Ip Man and his family, also trying to lie and protect people.
He's also the biggest plot hole of this movie.
Why?
Because at the point when I think, Ip Man leaves the fight where he beats the 10 people and the general comes out to, like, say, like, who are you, like, whatever. The translator says, well, Ip Man says, like, I don't want to give him my name or whatever, and the translator says his name is Ip Man. And then the guy says, I want him to come back, and Ip Man says, I won't come back or something. I don't remember exactly what the words were, but the translator is like, yeah, he says he'll think about it. Like, obviously lying, making it up. But then later in the movie, the same general speaks to Ip Man in what presumably his language without a translator. So
I don't know. That was a weird scene.
I'm just saying it's a plot hole because if he can understand without the interpreter what he's saying, then he knew that he was lying.
He was probably just letting it go and playing dumb.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
In that first interaction.
Sure. We're just gonna brush that plot hole right under the rug.
Sweep it right away. Just
fine.
Gone. It's gone. Gone.
Totally fine. So, one thing I did want to mention about this movie is that I didn't realize that the guy who played Ip Man, Donnie Yen, I want to say his name is, was as amazing of a martial artist as he is. So, he's almost as apparently well-known and famous for martial arts as Ip Man is.
Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, Donnie Yen.
Right.
Yes, there's...
So, one funny little piece of trivia that I saw was that in real life, Donnie Yen.
Wow.
What? I don't know why that happened. Freudian slip? I don't know. But anyways, hospitalized 8 gang members for harassing his girl. So, I mean, 8 is pretty close to 10. I'm just saying, like, I don't know how he did it. I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming he used Kung Fu.
Probably.
My guess. I don't know. That's not in the article, but that's my guess.
I mean, if you're going to fight more than one person, you got to take as many people out of the fight as you can, as quickly as you can.
Fair.
So, like, I don't know how you do that, but I would imagine there's a lot of, like, throat chopping and eye gouging.
I would have to imagine. I did like that Jackie Chan and Jet Li said that Yen might actually be the best fighter in the Asian cinematic universe.
Really?
Yeah. So, I find that interesting. So,
you gotta trust them.
Right. I mean, I'd never heard of him before this, so I don't know.
You'd seen him in a movie.
Well, yes, I've seen him in Rogue One, but, like, I didn't know this about him. Like, I just saw him as an actor in Rogue One. Like, I mean.
Yes.
So, anyways. Do you have other things you want to say before we move on to Audience Asks?
So, just randomly, the general, or the actor who played the general, got a concussion in the final boss fight.
Ooh. Like, literally in real life? And
actually, in real life, he got concussed from fighting Donnie.
Oof.
Other than that, he was actually supposed to play Ip Man in a movie about Ip Man in 1997, but that movie...
The general?
Donnie.
Oh, Donnie.
Donnie Yen was originally slated to play Ip Man in 1997, but that project was scrapped, and then he plays them in 2008, I think.
2008, yeah.
So I found that interesting. It was almost 20 years later.
Oh, one thing I found interesting that I forgot to mention?
Yes.
The real Ip Man's son makes an appearance in this movie.
Really? Where?
Mm-hmm. I couldn't tell you that, but I just know he makes an appearance, so... He also, like, helps out on the movie.
No, he probably oversaw a lot of things about this movie.
Yeah. So, interesting. Any other little tidbits before I pull up Audience Asks?
I think that's about it.
Of course it is. You know, don't give me enough time to pull it up on my phone. So, I will say that Audience Ask was pretty slow this week. My theory is that nobody's seen the movie.
Or the fact that you posted it 20 minutes ago.
It says 2 hours ago. I just looked. Anyways.
Still not a lot of time, darling. Usually you're supposed to give a couple days.
I usually do give it a couple days. Regardless,
so,
this was a...
blame Shay.
No, this was a... We weren't going to do it. We were sick. And then impromptu. So anyways, first question is from 5 to 1 podcast. Which, by the way, they've been under a rock. So hello. Thank you guys for coming out of wherever you've been hiding for air. But they said, I haven't seen this film, but I would like to know who you guys think is the best, most entertaining martial artist in film, excluding Bruce Lee.
So I gotta say it's probably bodywork, probably Jackie Chan, and then followed by Donnie.
I mean, Jackie Chan all the way, except for recently.
Well, I mean, Jackie Chan has just so many classics.
He's wonderful, but
Rumble in the Bronx, Legend of Drunken Master, Rush Hour.
Who else is there?
Bruce,
beyond this?
Bruce Lee.
Beyond that, it says excluding Bruce Lee.
Jet Li.
Jet Li, okay. He's not very fun to watch though. He's good, but he's not.
There's another guy. I can't come up with his name off the top of my head, but.
Oh, see, he can't do it. Blame Tyler. Just kidding.
Not nice.
So a lot of these say never saw it. So I'll just do all of them because there's only 3 that are actual questions. Besotted said, is it IP as in SIP or IP? Which is actually what I was wondering before I saw the movie. Now that I've seen it, I know it's Ip Man because they say Ip Man.
Yes.
But also on Google, if you Google it, it comes up as Yip Man with a Y.
Yes, that's true.
So do we know why? We know why there's a Y?
You're so proud of yourself for that, aren't you?
I really am.
I know you are. That just made your night.
It really did. When things work out.
It's Ip Man, not IP Man.
But why the Y? I want to know.
I don't know, darling. I didn't edit his wiki page.
So if anyone on Google knows why, when you Google Ip Man, it comes up as Yip Man, I would really enjoy knowing.
Alternate pronunciation.
An alternate pronunciation or alternate spelling?
Both.
Really?
I don't know.
Okay, well, in the comments, let us know.
Why would I know that?
Because you know all things.
I don't know all things.
Yes, you do, Trivia God.
Oh, God.
And then the last one is from More Gooder Than Podcast, and they said, who would last the longest in a fight against Bruce Lee, you or Tyler? I will have to say Tyler because I am a tiny little person who can't do anything. From
sheer extra padding, probably me.
Facts. Now, if it was a battle of wits, I might win it out. I didn't say battle of trivia.
Well, I can hold my own with battle of wits. Thanks for that.
I'm not making faces. I am not making faces.
Yeah, this is what I live with on a regular basis.
Oh, wow. Don't throw a tantrum now.
I said that to you today, and you were really not happy with me.
So if you guys haven't seen the movie, which about 99.9% of you haven't, that is one of the lines that is terrible in this movie, and it's going to probably follow us forever.
Well, I can't believe more people haven't seen this movie. Because, I mean, it is not a very well-known movie, but it's an instant kung fu classic.
Well, maybe once we've posted it and, it gets a little bit more traction, because, I am a little delayed in posting The Audience Ask. Maybe after it's been out for a week, we'll see that more people have seen it. But speaking of this movie and genres and whatever, you guys always give us really good suggestions on other movies we should see. And since I'm not a big kung fu person, I feel like maybe if I'd seen more kung fu movies that are entertaining, not just all fighting, that maybe I'll more appreciate the genre. So if you guys have other suggestions of kung fu movies that have good stories, whether they're true stories or just really good character development, I would really like to know. So let us know, because I would
Don't say Ip Man 3. It's terrible.
And don't say Foreigner, because I would rather
there wasn't a whole lot of kung fu in that.
Right, but I would rather lay in a bed of nails than watch that again, so please don't say that movie. So, anyways, I don't think there is anything else, and we are over time. So next week, we are getting into our Halloween movies, because it's October.
Well, it's going to be October. It's not October yet.
It's going to be next week.
Yes.
It'll be October 3rd when we release our next podcast.
Which is? What's our podcast movie?
Child's Play.
We're doing Child's Play.
We are.
Oh.
So.
I'm interested to see that.
Because you haven't seen it already?
I haven't actually seen it.
You've never seen Child's Play?
No.
Wait, no.
Yeah.
Wait, no, you're being serious?
Yeah.
What? No, so my shock is because he's been saying all day long today that he doesn't understand why people are
I've never
afraid
understood that. I have never
of a
understood
doll.
that. It just doesn't make sense to me.
That's why when I said I think he's possessed by a serial killer, you were like, I mean, it's probably like something, like, because you've never seen it. Oh, this is wonderful.
I've seen pieces of it.
So this is wonderful.
I've seen a lot of pieces of it. I haven't sat down and watched the whole thing. We're talking about this movie that we haven't even gone to that podcast yet.
This is wonderful. What I was going to say is some of the movies that we're going to do for the Halloween month, we're going to do all horror movies for the month of Halloween. Some of them we've seen, and some of them we have not seen. We're trying to, like, mix it in. I thought this was one we'd both seen, but update. Plot twist. Anyways, so I'm very excited. But anyway, anything else you need to say before we end it?
We have to rate the movie.
Rate this movie. Well, I'm not a big Kung Fu fan, so I'm going to give it a 7. I thought that the characters were really good, and Toe Man was wonderful.
Toe Man? His name's Lin. And
yeah, for Lint.
Stop. No, he was a wonderful person that kept his brother's kite in his pocket. It was his most prized possession.
Yeah, he was a wonderful man, but he still looked like a toe. But anyways.
He didn't deserve to die.
No, he didn't. Don't give me big puppy eyes. That's awful.
He died.
Okay, not the person. The person did not die.
No, the person did not.
Okay.
The actor died.
Jeez, this felt like a Sarah McLachlan moment.
Yeah. It is. Great. Now that song stuck in my head.
Anyways, so I gave it a 7. What do you give it?
I'll give it a 7.75.
Really? I thought you would be higher since you picked this movie.
No, 8.5. 8.25. 8.25.
8.25?
Yeah.
Okay, we're getting real specific with our ratings nowadays.
Yes.
Okay. Are we good now?
We're good.
Okay. So,
Final
I wanted
answer.
to say thank you to Jake at Athos Music for our intro and outro music. And I'm really excited to start next week our horror month.